May 3, 1936, The Pittsburgh Press, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Prisoner tells of weird rattlesnake murder plot. The United Press, Los Angeles, May 2. Charles H. Hope, ex-sailor, confessed today, the district attorney's office said, that he helped a husband hold his young wife's barefoot in a box of live rattlesnakes in a weird plot to kill her. When the poison acted too slowly to satisfy him, the husband, Robert S. James, 5 times wed barber, then drowned his bride of 3 months and had Hope help place her body face down in a pond to make the death appear accidental, the former sailor said. Hope confessed he bought 2 batches of snakes for James, profiting $16 on the deal, and helped hold Mrs. Mary James over a table in her own breakfast room while one of her bare legs dangled in the snake box until snakes sank their fangs into the calf and one toe. Mrs. James, her mouth and eyes taped shut and unable even to scream in pain, was still alive some time later, Hope said, adding that James sent him away for a time while I drown her. He said he helped carry the body to a fish pond where the woman was found later, and the case pronounced accidental death. Hope, 38-year-old former night manager of a beach cafe, detectives said, boasted of knowing something about the case, and his words were related to the district attorney's office by an attorney who heard them. He broke under a short questioning, they said. Confronted with Hope in the county jail, where he is awaiting trial on morals charges involving his niece, James, flushed dark red, appeared on the verge of collapse and demanded a glass of water. "Don't pay any attention to what Hope tells you," he said. "He will tell you anything. He's screwy." Detective Jack Sutherland said Hope's statement cleared up the presence of 2 small marks on Mrs. James's body, unexplained. The body was discovered face down in a lily pond at her La Crescentia home. James now is in jail on a charge brought by a 21-year-old niece. A previous investigation of his wife's death was dropped for lack of evidence. Hope, said James, has a hypnotic power over me. He had known James for 7 years and was befriended by the barber who gave him haircuts and massages on credit. He went to a snake farm in Venice last June and bought 3 live rattlesnakes for $5.80 and delivered them to James, he said. The barber, he said, claimed he wanted to hold a show in his home. James told him, he said, that the snakes were no good, that one died and another had no venom, and ordered him to get some more. This time, he purchased 3 more snakes from a dealer known as Snake Joe in Pasadena. On the morning of Mrs. James' death, Hope said, he went to the barber's home for breakfast and found the bride with adhesive tape covering her eyes and mouth. The box containing the second consignment of snakes was in the next room, he said. Detectives said he told them he and James held Mrs. James barefoot in the box until one of the snakes bit her. Hope said James handed him a box of whiskey later and said, "She's not dead yet and I'm going to drown her. You go out and wait in the garage." At 4 a.m. the next day, James came out to the garage, where Hope had been waiting, he said, and told him, "I drowned her." May 3, 1936, Reading Eagle, Reading, Pennsylvania. Weird murder charge aired. Woman, bitten by snake, drowned in bathtub, witness charges. Los Angeles, May 2, Associated Press. Deputy District Attorney Eugene Williams said today he would ask the grand jury for an indictment charging murder against Robert James, master barber, whose wife was the victim of the weird fish pond death last August 3. An eerie story that James experimented with live rattlesnakes and finally drowned his wife in the bathtub has been told by C.H. Hope, night manager of a Hermosa Beach restaurant, Williams said. Williams said Hope told him he helped James carry the lifeless body of Mrs. Mary Bush James, fifth wife of the barber, from the house to the fish pond, where it was found on the night of August 3. The woman had been bitten by rattlesnakes and drowned in the bathtub, Williams and Hope told him. The district attorney's office said, Hope made a complete statement today after he had been taken into custody at Hermosa Beach last night and told he was being held for the murder of Mrs. James. James has a hypnotic power over me, the investigators said Hope began. He hypnotizes me, and I have to do what he says. On July 19, 1935, he married Mary Bush. 3 weeks later, her limp body, face downward in a shallow goldfish pond in the garden of their home, was found by James and a friend when they came to the house on the night of August 3. James, apparently overcome with grief, told police he had last seen her early that day when he had left for his tonsorial parlor. He said she was about to become a mother and had been subject to fainting spells. There was long insurance litigation. James asked for payment of double indemnity on her life insurance on the grounds of accidental death. A version of what he said happened on and before August 2 was given to the district attorney's office by Hope today, Williams said. Hope said he had known James for 7 years and was indebted to him in a small way. Last June, Hope said, James asked him to get some live rattlesnakes. Hope said James explained he wanted the reptiles for a sort of miniature Roman circus, with animals fighting each other at his home. The restaurant manager continued that he bought the serpents at a snake farm and gave them to James. Several weeks passed, he said, and then James told him one snake had died, another had escaped, a third was without venom. He said the barber told him to get some guaranteed killers, which he did. On August 3, Hope told investigators he and James had some whiskey and that he dozed in the James garage. When he awakened, he said, he found the garage locked. Hope told the investigators he went back to sleep. The next morning, he said, James unlocked the doors, entered, and said, "You're on the spot. She's dead. You've got to come in and help me get rid of the body." They went into the house, Hope's statement continued. There, in a hallway between the kitchen and the bathroom, was the body. Hope said it was partly clad in dry pajamas, but the hair was wringing wet. She fell in the bathtub and drowned herself, Hope said James explained. Hope was held as a material witness today while investigators began checking his story. May 11, 1936, Reading Eagle, Reading, Pennsylvania. Men facing charges in Rattlesnake murder. Los Angeles, May 11, International News Service. Robert S. James, the Casanova of the barbershops, and his hypnotized henchman, Charles Hope, were called into court today to face charges of the Rattlesnake fish pond torture murder of James' pretty wife, Mary Bush James. Both are expected to plead not guilty. Hope, who told how a bride of a few months was drowned in a tub after her bare leg had been forced into a box full of deadly rattlesnakes, claims he had no knowledge a crime was being planned when he purchased the snakes. The young ex-sailor also admitted he stripped the wet pajamas off the young bride after she was drowned and carried her body out to the yard and flung it in a fish pond. He says James had hypnotized him. July 21, 1936, The Daily Times, Beaver and Rochester, Pennsylvania. Snake plot case is nearing jury. Los Angeles, July 21, United Press. Robert S. James, appearing nervous for the first time since his trial on murder charges opened, today was back at his seat at the counsel table as state attorneys prepared to resume final arguments. The red-haired barber whose calm amazed spectators during the 4 weeks he has been on trial, was assigned an extra guard at county jail. James was reported to have started pacing his cell as the Rattlesnake plot case neared the jury. Previously, the hair-cutting Romeo has remained sitting quietly between his attorneys and surveying witnesses with a sardonic grin. His only sign of emotion in previous weeks was when Charles H. Hope, an asserted accomplice, tried to demonstrate how James allegedly shoved the 7th Mrs. James' leg into a box containing a rattlesnake. James begged that Hope be warned not to touch him. He quickly recovered his composure. Deputy District Attorney John Barnes was to complete the first half of the state's closing arguments. He will be followed by the barber's 3 defense attorneys. The state's last plea, that James be sent to the gallows for the slaying of his 27-year-old wife, was to be made by Deputy District Attorney Eugene Williams. The case is expected to reach the jury either late today or Wednesday morning.